Hey, everybody, welcome back to Conversations in Ken's Cafe. We have a very special guest, and he just saluted us because that's his background is U.S. Navy. And you came out and you've been doing a lot of stuff with growers and with other veterans, but Baby Daddy Grows, brother, tell us who the heck you are.
Man, thank you so much for that great introduction, Mr. Somerville. So, for the people that have just started to follow me, I go by BabyDad Grows on Instagram. I also go by BabyDad Grows on YouTube. I am a U.S. Navy veteran after 21 years of honorable service, faithful service to the country. So, I can tell you about my story growing up in South Carolina. I can tell you that I've grown up in gardens from probably the time where a young kid growing up in gardens with my mom, with my aunt, with my uncles, and just having a family garden and not just only having that garden for our family, but also having that garden for a community garden. And so for me, that always stuck with me as I continued to go through my military career. I had always thought about growing, and I had always thought about not growing so much as cannabis or this plant that we all love or go by cannabis. I always thought about growing just fruits, vegetables, and herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as I continued to progress through my military career, I was in an accident. And so, with that accident, I sustained major back injuries. And so, here comes the back surgeries. And so, I got to a point to where I knew I was going to be retiring. And so I got to a point to where I just knew that I did not want to be on opioids for the rest of my life. I knew for a fact I did not want to be on painkillers or any of the other psychotropic drugs for the rest of my life. And so, but that's what I had a inclination of doing, should I say, right? I come from a great family. We never even thought about cannabis. Nobody knew anything about cannabis.
Yeah.
So at the time, so I thought, and so I was so new to just a different way of growing and just so a different plan. And so what I wanted to do um, is basically find a medicine that was going to be great for us for the ailments that we have. I am a disabled veteran, and so what we try to do is we try to give back to not only just our veteran community, but we try to give back to our cannabis community, our canna community as well. And so that's the stuff that for me that I think is not only helped me, but also just trying to get back into growing again. I will tell you that I took about a 2 year break just to get my mental health where I needed to. So I didn't grow anything. I just basically just had a really, I basically had a mental breakdown, and so it allowed me to not only just focus and reach out for the help that I needed, Mr. Somerville, but it
Mhm.
also gave me different outlets of what could also help me as well. And so from that moment on, I just basically got in the books. I basically um, tried to learn as much as I possibly could through science and reading. Um, I wasn't trying to be a YouTube grower so much, but that's where I learned a lot of stuff from. I was able to find a community, this Canna community, that I say has welcomed me. And so, if you were to take a look at my bio, I think that I've succeeded death, suicide. I'm a huge advocate for the 22 a day movement. If those people that's watching don't know it about the 22 a day, 22 veterans commit suicide a day, and so that number has greatly increased since the last time that it was released. And so for me, I was one of those 22. I got to a point to where I didn't think I was going to be and do what God put me here to do, and so I just wanted to end it. And so I can tell you that I've had other friends take that route, and for me, it just opened my eyes. Cannabis just opened my eyes to just a different a way of healing. not just a way of healing for me, but also just a way of reconnecting through Mother Earth. And so what we've been doing is just it's just being able to help those other veterans. I see Mr. Toes on here. Big love to him and everything he's doing. But we've taken a snapshot of basically what we've learned from a lot of people, you included, from Boneyard Seeds NorCal, from all those cheddar bobs and those great growers and in this community. And so we've learned so much, and we've not only just been able to give back, but what we try to do is also help other veterans and along this medicinal journey too, as well. Because for me, being a veteran, I try not to tell so many people, as a veteran, because I'm still fighting every day for those benefits that so many deserve. But also just being just somebody that also those other veterans in the community can take a look at and say, you know what, if he can do it, it's easy. It's not so much easy to do, but we can do it the same way, And for me, growing has been not just therapeutic, it is my therapy. This right here is my therapy. Doing these shows are my therapy. And so I think the more shows that we do, the more places we'll be able to reach, and a message will be able to relay a message of just sharing community, because it's not just me. It's people all over the country. You know what I'm saying? That's went through the same stuff that I went through as a veteran. And so we basically want to give back and help, and that's why we're here, Mr. Somerville.
Well, before the show, I actually mentioned this: is one lit candle can light many without ever diminishing its own light. And you, my friend, have become one of those lit candles. You had to take some time off and get yourself straightened out, and we really appreciate that. And when you help other people, that's helping yourself too, because it's a positive energy exchange. And it's the same energy exchange you get when you go and sit in your garden and meditate. And I know Mr. Tony does that as well. Sits in his garden to get that energy coming from his plants that help to focus and bring yourself back into your core being. And there's a lot of people out there that have been damaged, and it's not just in North America. It's a lot of global things have happened, whether it was the vid or anything like that. We only necessarily tell people, oh, okay, you've got PTSD because you're from the military, and that's the main route. But if you're a firefighter, a policeman, if you've had a traumatic experience, you can have that PTSD as well. And I know from my own experiences of being injured and sick that the cannabis has helped me regulate my mental, acuities to not go down that path. But it's making that choice every morning not to get up and be angry, but to get up and be happy and healthy and help people. And that's what you've been doing, my friend, because you're helping the veterans, but even more than that, you're helping anybody that finds you that wants to grow something healthy. I know you watch our shows. You watched, you started out on the Future Cannabis Project, is where I first met you and a lot of the people there. And
Absolutely.
in that community, you've been able to pull a lot of people in and gain a lot of knowledge. But now you're sharing that knowledge. So tell us, what's one of the main things that you want to tell people, whether they're a veteran or not, to get started? Where do you tell people to set their foundation?
Me personally, I would tell people to start soil science. Right now, I am a horticulture major right now. And so we've been able to learn so much about soil science. We've not only just learned so much about soil science, but plant science. I've taken some of the hardest classes: crop science, plant science, soil biology, and it's all just a culmination of what eventually what I will be is what we call a crop production manager. And so but yeah, being a student and not only just being a student, but I'm also learning as well. So I like to, when it comes to growing, I like to do a lot of things by science. I believe that for me, growing in living soil for me is the best way that I can grow. When people ask me, how do you get started? I tell people that the best way is just to start by growing something. Let's take a look at vegetables. Let's not focus so much on cannabis. So let's take a look at vegetables because I grow fruits, vegetables, and herbs, right? Start off with just something small. Radish. A radish is one of those things that's very easy to grow. It doesn't really care so much about the soil, but just know that a radish is one of those easiest things that you can grow. You know what I'm saying? And so start off with a vegetable. Start off with something that you yourself are going to consume. If you don't consume it, maybe your family or somebody in your neighborhood will. Also, what I tell people is focus on why the plant, what's the purpose of a plant. A lot of people don't have to get so deep into science like I like to say, or like I'm involved, right? But I like to tell people just think about how the soil helps a plant, or think about what a plant needs to grow. All right. Focus on the basics of a plant. Why is a plant here? You know, to make more plants to reproduce. And so when we start to figure that out, and once we start to put some things together, we can realize that it's not so hard of a thing to do. You know, but also I tell people to start off with just following somebody that grows like you. Not only just grows like you, but just that you want to try to emulate. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing when I was in the military. I always had a mentor that I could focus on, somebody I was trying to emulate to get to where I needed to get. So that's what I did, man. And so you don't have to be so much of a science major to grow. But the thing is, I don't care what you grow. I just want you to grow. That has been my message, and I think that's what's important. So I would just start with just figuring out why we have soil and what is soil, what makes up soil, how does it react to water, how do different environments react to our soil. And so those are some of the things that I just dive into. But those are just some of the things that make me want to continue to just learn more and more about soil science and what I'm doing now in horticulture class, or in horticulture, in my field of science, I say.
Yeah. And which makes a lot of sense, because once you really start to understand how the soil and the plant, interact with each other, and how nutrients are drawn from, a complete acre, with the nutrients being drawn through the fungal hyphae to the plant that's asking for it, then you can really start understanding the connection between the soil, the plant, and then the animal's health and our health. Because really, like, when you're growing those vegetables, and like you mentioned, growing for your family, your friends, you can do market gardens, etc. But growing healthy plants that have the nutrients in them that are going to help your body be healthy. That's one of the key connections that we all need to understand, is that plant, whether it's lettuce, whether it's a radish, or a watermelon, or a squash, or a pepper, when you ingest it, you want to get the nutrients out of that plant that has been brought in through the soil. And that's why we always say feed your soil, because that's feeding your plant, and then that's feeding you. And that healthy, food going into you can help you balance, and it helps with your mental health. It helps with your physical health, and I think that's one of the things, my friend, that, you can really push is, that these things are designed for us to be healthy. Our bodies aren't meant to break down as fast as they are. But then you look at the 1920s to now, and the amount of nutrition that's in the food that we're consuming, you'd have to eat, 100 pounds of lettuce to get what they used to get from, one head of lettuce. So by bringing that nutrition back in by the methods of understanding the soil, understanding the biology, and how to add the right nutrients into your soil to get those plants so healthy that when you consume it, it's like, oh man, I didn't know lettuce could taste like that.
Absolutely, Mr. Somerville. Yes.
And like Lily says, my happy place is in my garden. And that's,
Absolutely.
oh, pussycat. And we love animals, so like they can run across as long as they're not hitting the escape button, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. I just became a cat dad not too long ago, so my kitties are just yeah. So I have two cats, and so one of them is very lovable, and the other one is not so lovable, and so yeah. Well, so it's a mix of the two, So yeah, it's just fun for us. Yeah.
Well, we had one that used to hide on top of the cabinet, and you'd walk in, and it would pounce on you.
She used to do that when she was a kitten. When she was small, when she was a kitten, she used to hide behind things. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Attack cat. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you talk to people, and like you're going to school and learning all about this, but when you talk to people about, growing in a living soil, what would you say is the place to start with taking your soil and creating, instead of having dirt, into a soil?
Man, it's so that's a great question. Thank you for asking that question. Um, what I tell people, the basic start off when we talk about living soil, I want to say is one of the most people think it's so complex, and it's really not. But the way that I think about it and the way that I've been able to grasp this, Mr. Somerville, is I've been able to basically just break it down and say it's growing with nature, right? So if we think about what growing with nature means, that means that we have to think about when we put our plants out at a certain time, right? Because if we don't, we know that plant is going to flower, right? Or let's talk about vegetables. When we put our vegetables out, what if we put our vegetables out and our crop pressure or our pest pressure is super bad at the time, right? And our vegetables get demolished. Well, guess what? We can apply that same principle to our cannabis plants, right? When it comes to growing with nature, that also involves growing with the environment too as well. Here in my environment, I have what they call a Mediterranean climate, so I feel like we can grow pretty much anything. I think we've been blessed to be able to do that, to grow a lot of different fruits, vegetables, and herbs. So it's kind of it's a lot of people would say that it's so complex, but it's really not. And if we think about growing in nature, think about how healthy and the benefits that we're getting from our fruits, vegetables, and herbs, right? You talked a little bit earlier about how vegetables and how they taste. I can tell you from experience that some of the best vegetables are some of the stuff that I've personally grown, or farmers in my area have grown and been in living soil. But for us, we know that growing in living soil and growing organically is not only just going to help us, but it's going to help us also to grow a plethora of different fruits, vegetables, and herbs, right? For me, I'm not so much on, I don't care how people grow. I want people to grow. There's so many different ways of growing. We got hydroponics. We have living soil. We have trader grows. There's so many different avenues, you know. But for us, growing in living soil is not only just healthier, but we want to look at the long-term effects of helping our environment too as well. You know, Brandon Russ, somebody I definitely follow a lot. I listen to him a lot. I looked at one of his videos and just basically taking a look at one of these farms that was basically demolished by plastic, you know. And so for us, we've tried to take a look at how are we managing the plastic around our household, because I'm just like everybody else. I'm definitely a home grower, but along with growing at my own home, I also show other people how to grow in their own spaces too, as well. And so I think that that's important. And again, just being able to grow and being able to not only just being able to be outdoors can be therapeutic, but it also can help other people. And so that's what we're doing, Mr. Somerville. And so hopefully I answered your question.
Well, pretty much. Now, I do want to ask, do you do Korean natural farming, jadam? Do you do composting, worm farming?
Do you know what we do? We do a lot of composting. Here, when it comes to composting for us is very important, because we can get rid of a lot of our waste from our house with our compost. We also have chickens, so when it comes to taking these chickens, we also use the manure as a starter for our compost as well. But our compost is very important. So that's important. A lot of people don't think about it, but that's a way that we can clean up some of the waste and some of this trash that we're getting rid of, and try to clean up the environment too as well. It's crazy what we can think about what's happening to our environment, but also when it comes to these soils that have been degraded over time, you know. So yeah, I've just been thinking about how we can help our soil here, and being able to grow in native soil here on my property. That's been amazing too.
Well, and you're in California, Southern California. So you know, a lot of people nowadays, it used to be considered a paradise, but now that, you know, it's more of a desert landscape.
Originally.
So yeah, you're adding a lot of organic material to bring your soils back to life with your composting. When you put out your compost, are you making sure that you're putting on a layer on top of it so it doesn't dry out?
Yeah, what we do a lot of cover cropping, right? So I believe in a cover crop system outdoors to not only just help our biology in the soil, but also when it comes to our worm castings. You know, worm castings is huge, because it adds that biology and those enzymes that from the earthworm's gut back into the soil. But what I also have been focusing on, Mr. Somerville, we actually started our indoor grow. So for those people it was our very first indoor grow. We were able to grow some plants to the best of our ability in that indoor grow. So we had to learn about our environment, our DLI, our VPD, our EC. So it was a lot of stuff. And so for us, it had to be living soil. You know what I'm saying? And so I can tell you that I didn't do any, we used as much dechlorinated water as I possibly could, not reverse osmosis water, but dechlorinated water. But I know for at a certain point, you know, when it comes to dechlorination, a lot of those chemicals still are, some are still in there. So we still try to be as organic as we possibly can, right? But going indoors basically it may have changed the way I grow for probably, you know, for a while to come, you know, because technically what I'm trying to do indoors is bring my outdoor experience to my indoor garden. That's basically the only thing I'm trying to do. But what helps me out is having a great worm population in my earth boxes. What also helps me out is growing inside of an earth box system, learning about how those plants respond and how it's basically a sub irrigated planter, and seeing that those roots hit the bottom and those that's going to just feed the soil. So it was yeah, so I thought I was thinking to myself, basically the best way to grow indoors would be in an earth box system for my setup and what I have happening right now.
Well, and that's the thing, we a lot of people online, it's you got to go this way, this way, this way, but in your environment, you have, so many options. You're in a house, or you're in an apartment, or you're on an acreage, or, a small house, large house, you have a garage. Everybody can be different because their environment is that much different. Their availability of both money, time, and space is different. Each person can choose what works best for them in their
Absolutely.
environment. Like you can't
Absolutely.
have an 8x12 grow tent if you have a 1-bedroom apartment, and you would have no place to put your bed. Yeah. Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so
Priorities.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you do any foliar spraying or anything like that?
You know what, Mr. Somerville, with this first grow, we didn't do a lot at all. We basically I think I know for a fact, I made 2 compost teas.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it was basically water only. I'd used what I thought would be some good starting soil, which was Builder Soil 3.0. But we also had to go through a plethora, a bunch of soils just to figure out, hey, look, this is the soil that we want to go with. I think it's a good starting point. But also, I had to prioritize. Again, I'm a disabled veteran. I don't have the most amount of money. And for those other veterans that's watching too, or for those other people that's ready to start, guess what? It's a financial responsibility, and a lot of people don't have those responsibilities. So we had to prioritize. Hey, look, um, do we want to be able to grow our medicine, or do we really need this pair of shoes? No, we don't need this pair of shoes. We can actually put that money towards finding a good soil. And so that's what we did when it came to Build a Soil 3.0. But again, I've went through a plethora of soils and tested a lot of different soils. I can tell you about a lot of different soils. But for me in this environment, that's the soil that we went through for our first indoor run.
Okay, and I've heard good things about Build a Soil, and there's a lot of soil companies out
Yeah.
there. And if you really need to build your own, where you're not having to buy anything, 30% sand, 30% silt, 30% clay,
Clay,
10% organic material,
organic material. Yes,
throw
sir.
in some biochar if you can, get some, and you could create your own soil. But the key is to let it cook for
Look,
30 days, basically compost it, because it doesn't matter. Even if you're buying a soil, like even like Build a Soil, I would put it in compost for 30 days so that you can, make sure that the biology that does exist has proliferated properly.
mhm,
you
mhm.
know um, there's so many of these soils. I know I bought one where I had nothing but fungus gnats coming out of it. As
Absolutely, Mr. Somerville. Yeah, man.
Once I
Yes.
throw it in my compost barrel for 30 days and I composted it, not a problem
Go.
anymore. Right? So
Yeah.
there are ways, and I know that I've done shows on in Conversations in Ken's Cafe on building your
Mhm,
own soil, so you guys
mhm,
can check that out as well. If you've never done biochar, we've got lots of videos on biochar and how to make it, etc.
mhm.
But it's what you can personally do. Like, okay, I like my back's shot, my knee is shot. My stomach is shot. I've had numerous surgeries. I can't physically do a lot. Look at Tony in his wheelchair
Mhm,
and the
mhm,
things that he can and can't do. So take into account your situation when
mhm.
you're searching for videos on what to do and how to do it, and do what you can do with the availability. Now, you say you have chickens. Are you taking those chicken eggs, keeping the shells, washing them down, and making a water soluble calcium out of those?
We do, we do.
Okay.
We make calcium, our own calcium. A lot of our amendments that we use are for our outdoor gardens.
Yeah.
We haven't really used any for our indoor gardens. What we want to do is just basically get up a great diverse micro population in our outdoor soils. And I have a greenhouse or a hoop house that I
Cool.
grow, that I also grow in. Inside of that hoop house, there is some living soil beds, some grassroots living soil beds, a 3x3, a 4x4, and also I have a 4x6 by 3, I think it is. And it has earthworms. It has pretty much everything. A diverse population of microbes, should I say? All right. We make compost teas. I know what the science says. I believe in compost teas. I really do. Um, but I've seen my plants respond as well to compost teas in my environment. And so that's why I think that those have been key for me for my outdoor growth. Um, and yeah, so like I said, just being able to come indoors and being able to bring a little bit of that same mentality, especially a lot of people don't think about it, is IPM when you're indoors, right? Your plants can get bugs indoors, so it's
Yeah.
all about having healthy practices and being able to not only just grow outdoor and grow indoor, but also knowing, hey, look, do I really need to go in there and check my plants after I've went outside? And you know what I mean? So those are the things that we had to learn about. A lot of things that we learn about are pathogens as well. Um, yes, sir. Shout out to Ho, what you got, man. Definitely, and like I said, we just been learning so much, and being able to apply some of those outdoor principles indoor have been great, man. Have been great for us as well.
Well, and the key understanding, and it's for any organic life form, whether it's us or our plants, is it's all about the biology, because it's the biology that literally builds the cell that makes up us, that makes up our plant. So if you can create a healthy cell, you create a healthy plant. And so
Absolutely.
look at the periodic table of elements, other than the ones that are man-made on there,
Hmm,
are
hmm.
naturally supposed to be in our environment. So, you
Environment.
know, having the calcium, remembering that carbon is the foundation of all life on our
Yeah,
planet. We're
yeah.
carbon based, so are all of
Mhm.
our plants and animals. And are you adding carbon? Have you, put in calcium? Have you put in magnesium? Are you adding any of this stuff? Are you just hoping that it's going to, be around? So that's one of the things that, in your studies,
Mm.
when they're talking about, plant growth, are they still talking only NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus? Or have
Absolutely not.
they have
It's
expanded now?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. We talk about the trace minerals that it takes for a plant as well. But for me, um, growing in our native soil, guess what? Whether that soil is clay based, whether it's organic based, whatever the situation may be, guess what? In that soil, um, you have those minerals in that soil, in that native soil, without anything naturally. But guess what? It needs to be unlocked in some form or fashion. Okay. Whether you're growing in a clay soil, whether you're growing in a loamy soil, in a sandy loamy soil. Yeah, that stuff just needs to be unlocked. And so with our native soil, with our native soil, we have to build that soil up and get it to a point to where it is ready to grow crops, right? So when it's not growing our medicine, our favorite medicine, guess what it's growing? It's growing vegetables, right? If it's not growing vegetables, it's growing a cover crop. If it's not growing a cover crop, it's growing some kind of lentil that provides nitrogen to the soil, or some kind of bean that helps provide nitrogen in our rhizosphere, you know. And so outdoors is where we learn so much about nature, but also we learn about some of those things that can help us in our environment, like companion planting. A lot of people don't think about companion planting when it comes to pest pressure. Guess what? That basil may help us. You know, that basil has a terpene in it that absolutely roots in the soil. So yes, and so those are some of the things that we know help us out in our native soil. But when it comes to indoor, we may have to add some calcium, or we may have to add some trace minerals. I had to basically reamend and restart what I call the 3.0, because I'm really trying to see how those earth boxes perform in a back-to-back run. Should I have started a cover crop in there or not? You know, and so those are some of the things that I'm testing. But also those are some of the things that I definitely, when it comes to growing my medicine, I want to grow a plant to the best of its ability. I don't want it to have, I don't want to have it bounce back. You know, I want to have that plant do as well as it can in that environment.
Well, the one thing, if you're using just like a potting soil that doesn't have the sand, the silt, the clay added to it, you're actually going to have to keep adding to that soil a lot more than if you had that mix, that 30-30-30 mix, because in that mix is, you know, the foundation of, you know, where these minerals, etc., are coming from. And it's like a what I relate it to, like a mining operation, where, you know, you're only getting, you know, X out of this section, but you dig deeper, you're getting this. Well, it has to have all those different components for it to have a cycle of everything being there. A lot of the soils that are put out there, especially your, you know, potting soils, don't have the sustainability that is, you know, in an outdoor soil that you're growing in, that can go down into, you know, a deeper layer and draw these things up. Now, in California, especially, like I have the show on Wednesday nights with Andy Lopez. He's down in Malibu. They don't have soil; they have dirt. It's dead, and you know that native soil that you're growing in down by San Diego. I'm hoping isn't just dead dirt where it's already come back. You say you've got worms, etc. So it's not just dead dirt, but
yeah, we had to build that soil up. You know,
yeah,
it took a lot of compost, a lot of earthworm castings, not so much biochar, because a lot of people think biochar is really expensive, and so we didn't do biochar. But what we did, we added some potash from our basically our fire pit, and what we try to do is add those natural things just basically from what we have here on our property. And so but we buy a lot of our products. And so but we do that to not only just help ourselves, but to help the community and be able to realize, hey, look, this is one of these products that it worked for me in my environment. But just keep in mind, it worked in my environment. Your environment might be totally different. And so because it works for me, it may not work for you. And that's the same thing I tell people about our endocannabinoid system. You know, that I'm definitely learning so much about. Knowing what affects me may not affect you, Mr. Somerville, at all. And so we can smoke the same strain, the same cultivar, same breeder, and not not get the same effect. And so that's what we're learning. That's the type of stuff that we're learning now, what medicine works the best for us. And not only just what medicine works for us, what product that we can use here in our environment that also works here in our environment.
Well, I know I some of the clips that I'm running on the channel right now, it's all about microclimates. If you want to watch that whole video, just look up microclimates on the channel. But if you're on growing something on the west side of your house, you're going to have a totally different environment than if you're growing something on the south side of your house. Compared to the north side to the east side, there's different airflow coming through, and you're creating in an indoor environment, you're creating your own microclimate. That's where you need to be cognizant of the VPD, the vapor pressure deficit, how much humidity is in the air, because your plants breathe. For those that don't understand, your plants, like I mentioned carbon, most of the carbon that builds your plant is actually being breathed in, I guess would be the right way to put it, through the plant stomata. And those carbon molecules, that CO2 is being broken down, and that carbon is being used to grow your plant. And that's one of the reasons indoor growers, whether you're, a big commercial tomato grower or, you're a small cannabis grower, use CO2 because it increases the availability of carbon in the environment. Now, we can't do that outside in nature. It's really hard to have that carbon in nature. But in an indoor environment, you can do things like that. Now, you have your indoor grow for cannabis. Are you adding, excuse me, any cover crops in those pots as well? Because, guys, if you don't know, energy into the soil comes from the light to the plant, down through the root system to get the energy down into the soil to energize the biology to do its work. So the more roots in the soil is one of the keys to remember, whether it's outdoor or indoor. But are you using cover crops in your indoor yet?
I'm not using cover crop in my indoor. The reason why I don't use cover crop in my indoor is a little bit different. I have worms and I have a mulch layer. All right. Could I have both? Absolutely, I could have both. But at the same time, what I wanted to do was basically just provide a layer of something on the top of that soil to be able for my worms to come up and take in whatever they need from the food layer that I put in there, and just take that and just give it to the plants. And so indoors, I can tell you that my worms do most of the work. I'm just providing them an environment. And so my job is easy, Mr. Somerville. I just have to provide them not so much of a peak environment, because guess what? Those plants will adapt to a lot of our environments. They'll adapt. But we have to just make sure, not push them along, but we have to make sure our environment is good for our plants. A lot of people don't think about while you're setting up a grow, what's one of the things we look at? Take a look at your water. Are you going to be able to give water to your plants straight out of the faucet, or tap water? Is tap water going to be okay to give your plants? So take a look at your water. Also take a look at what soil you're going to be going with. But there's a bunch of things that goes into to starting up a grow. How you're going to grow, what light are you going to use? Are you going to use an exhaust fan? Do you need an exhaust fan? Think about the essentials that you need to start up a grow. Whatever medium, that is going to be a priority. And so that's what we focus on. A lot of these, like I was talking earlier about products that we buy, I include these products in my videos, in my how-to videos on Instagram and on YouTube, to show people how to use them as well. But again, for me, it's all about my environment. They work here in my environment. And I've been fortunate to have a great relationship with not any kind of soil company or anything like that, but just asking questions. Kiss Organics, I follow a lot. I follow Tad, a lot of things that he goes over. I follow him a lot. And so being able to ask questions, hey, look, how much organic matter does this soil have? How much pumice does it have? What does it have for aeration? Those are some of the things that people have to think about. The substrate, yes, people water way too much. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's important too, and that's why we grew in our earth boxes indoors just for this one, because we wanted to see what was the effects on a water plant. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, those are just some of the things that we've been experiencing indoors. And again, we're new to indoors, but a lot of things that we've been experiencing have been just flaws in our environment.
Well, I want to mention a couple of other things is your electrical system in your house.
Absolutely.
How many watts are you pulling through? Do you need to add a couple of breakers and separate things out? And then you're growing indoors, moisture that's coming off your plants. Your plants are breathing. You're having this moisture in. Are you in an environment where you're going to have a problem? With mold ending up in behind drywall, things like that. These are some of the other things that you need to think about if you're doing an indoor grow, that a lot of people I'll just plug this in, and all of a sudden they're burning their house down because their electrical wasn't any good in the first place.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. But I think just basically just having a journal. I had to write stuff down, Mr. Somerville.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, if I go in there and I see my plants are having a great day and they look happy and everything I'm going and I'm taking a look at what's the temperature. I'm going to take a look at what's the humidity, what's my airflow, how's the circulation in the tent, but also just, starting out with this 4x4 tent, it also gave me a good indication of how many plants we can put inside of a 4x4 tent, and so that led us to buying another tent right now that we're looking at setting up pretty soon. We haven't set it up yet, to where we can maybe take a look at maybe breeding at, eventually at some point, But for me, what we want to do right now is just concentrate on growing the best medicine that we possibly can. And so the breeding portion, I think when it comes down to it, every grower as a cannabis grower, your elevation as a cannabis grower should eventually be into breeding. But to get there, we know that we have to learn so much more about this plant. I know that there's so much more things that come along with it. But just starting off is the hardest thing to anything is starting. Is starting. And so we've been able to do that, and we've been able to kind of just do that to the best of our ability right now.
And that's fantastic. And that actually leads into this question from Silly Lily. I know you're wanting to help veterans with growing their own herb. Are you finding interest from the veterans?
I am. I get a lot of messages on Instagram from other veterans saying, "Hey, look, man, what do you find that's good for anxiety? What strain have you grown when it comes to pain?" One of the best strains we ever grown was Mr. Toe's One Hitter Quitter. That not only just helped us mentally, it also helped us physically, because we do suffer with back pain and we do suffer with arthritis and stuff like that. And so, but yeah, those are some of the things. And I have been able to just help other veterans as well. Not so much. I try to tell these veterans, hey, look, just let me show you how to grow a garden to feed your family. Let's just start off there. We don't even have to think about, because once you taste that vegetable that's in that garden, once you taste that tomato, once you taste that brassica, whether it be a collard green or lettuce or squash or pepper, you're gonna be able to see and feel the benefits of that vegetable that you just grew, right? And so once we know that, guess what? You're gonna want to grow something else. It's just the progression. But yeah, I tell these other veterans, please just start off. Let's grow a garden. Let's grow a garden together. I hope you grow a garden together. Let's plan it together. Let's figure out how to water. We can come up with a watering schedule, whatever the situation may be. But because this is my therapy. This is being in horticulture, being what I am right now is my therapy. All right.
Yeah.
For me, I have a therapist, but guess what? My therapist is not out there getting dirty with me, getting my hands dirty. That's the stuff for me that matters. And I think that once people find that out, it can be some of the best things for you.
Well, because you're also grounding as well, which is the energetic side of our body being out in the sunlight, the energy coming from the sun that grows our plants. It's good for us too. And we're constantly told to put on sunscreen, and you don't
And
need
cover that
those.
up.
Yeah, don't need those chemicals. I still have snow on the ground up here. We won't be planting until the May long weekend. So I haven't been getting out in the sun at all. That's why I'm really really extra white right now. But when we can get out in the sun, when we can get our hands into the soil, remember, you come from the soil. Your biology comes from the soil because it's going into the plants, the animals, and you're eating it. It's coming into you. So when you get your hands into that soil, you actually get, it coming through your skin the way it's supposed to be and getting into your body. That's where we talk about foliar sprays a lot, spraying your plants to help them grow, to give them the building blocks right there where it's needed for development of new cells. Well, you get out and you get sprayed out there with compost tea on you, and it's the same thing. You can foliar spray yourself. So if you don't have a shower head that takes out most of the chemicals out of your shower, your water, if you're in the city, you might want to get one, because that's all going into those chemicals. Now, I know up here we have chlorine, and you can just let that sit out for a day. It's going to vaporize off. I know lots of guys that warm their water up, use an air bubbler to blow off the chlorine. But you have chloramine, which is the next step of the chlorine that doesn't get vaporized in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we do a lot when we're doing our compost teas. We let our water sit and aerate for a total of 24 hours, hoping that it'll get out as much of the chloramine and everything that's in there. But we know to a certain point, for us, like I said, we're using that water to be not only just healthy for just our plants, but for our soil too as well, because we don't want to kill any of those microbes or that diverse population of microbes that we just put into our soil that's been inoculated. We don't want to kill anything off with anything that we put into our soil. So when it comes down to it, we don't use any oils. There's sometimes that we do foliar sprays. We're going to do foliar sprays with this grow that I have started right now. We haven't yet. Because they're just babies right now, but once they get to a certain size, I want to say 4 nodes, we'll call it 4 nodes. We'll go ahead and start off there, and then we'll just see how it goes when it comes to this growth. But I know it's going to be a great grow, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Well, that's fantastic. And I can see your face light up when you're talking about it, and that positive energy is so good for you. And that's one of the reasons that I promote people growing, whether it's a house plant, cannabis, whether it's a vegetable garden to feed yourself. If you're growing a plant, you can energetically interact with that plant, and that plant will give you joy back, but you give it joy first. It's like your pussycats, brother. If you don't give them joy, then they're not going to give you joy. They're going to give you a hard time.
Absolutely, man. But this is one of the things that I also tell other people too. Don't let the plant grow you. You grow the plant. Because we all get to Mr. Somerville. This plant will have us to the point. It could be some of our best times. But guess what? These plants have also kept me up at night. You know what I mean? People don't realize it, but so just think about some of those things that you may experience. For me, growing it gave me just everything about the military that I missed. You know what I mean? I have to be on a schedule. My plants have to be on a schedule, right? I need to have a watering schedule, whether we're in the earth box or whether we're in living soil in pots or fabric pots. We have to have an IPM schedule at some point, whether we're indoors or outdoors, but for us, growing has made us not only just have a schedule, but it also has made us put ourselves on a schedule, put our plants and ourselves on a schedule, if that makes sense.
Well, it makes total sense. The military, you're very regimented. You've got lights out, you've got revelry in the morning, and you've got, you do this at this time, this at this time. Where you get out into civilian life, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter. You don't have anybody chasing you. You have to chase yourself. You put yourself back into that mindset of, okay, I have to do this between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'm doing calisthenics, I'm doing stretches, because it's going to help my body. By 6 to 7 I'm in my grow. I'm checking my plants, I'm writing my notes down so I can keep in touch with where things are going. I'm doing my watering. Having that regimented behavior isn't just, it's very, very prevalent in the military, but it should be something that we all do. Getting the right amount of sleep, is something that's very beneficial. Meditation, getting out in the sun, doing some sun gazing to get that energy into your body. But, my friend, you've been through, years in the military was so regulated. You didn't have to think. You could look at the clock and go, okay, I've got to be here in the next 5 minutes. Okay. That can actually be very beneficial in your grow if you accept that as, a prerequisite to your growing, whether it's, that first, lettuce seed that you're planting, for your buddy down the road, going, okay, I want you to go out there for an hour a day and sit there and watch that grass grow for an hour a day. And, they're going to, why would you do that? Well, you're getting sun. You get your socks off, you get your feet in the grass, you're getting that electrical charge. That all is beneficial, but that's the put it down as regulations, as an SOP, a standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
Put those down for your all growers, not just the veterans. The veterans will understand it right now, like they don't even have to think about it. Oh, okay, well,
Absolutely.
I get to go to my chart. We all need those standard operating procedures to move forward in our day, especially if you're growing, a plant, like cannabis, that's you're going to be your medicine and your salvation. Like I take mine every day. If I didn't, I wouldn't be walking. I'd be in a bloody wheelchair right now, so I wouldn't be able to walk. I wouldn't have a brain because of the painkillers and, all the other medications that they had me on. I wouldn't have a life. That's one of the reasons that I love cannabis so much, and I can't live without it. And that's one of the reasons I promote it to people, because it doesn't harm your body. there's maybe 1 in 100,000 people where it's going to have a negative effect on them, but it's never going to kill them. They're never going to overdose on it. And that's what one of the things I love. It's natural. It's healthy for us. Our bodies, if you eat a piece of chocolate, your body produces THC, which is bad for you because your brain's on drugs. So don't eat chocolate. Your brains are on drugs if you eat chocolate. Yes, excuse the fuck out of me, bye. What?
Absolutely. I understand. Yeah.
But brother, we're at the hour, and I generally try to keep these ones at about that hour mark. So what else would you like to say to people before we get off of the live stream?
Man, thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Somerville. I really do appreciate you having me on here. It was so great again reconnecting with you and everything, that just being able to watch your journey too as well. It's been great. It's been like my honor, when it comes down to it. I've spent so much amount of my time trying to figure out what I was protecting, but now I know who I was protecting, right? When it comes down to it, right? So I appreciate everybody, always saying, shout out to our veterans for everything. But guess what? A lot of people, it's so different now. A lot of people don't join for God and country. It's just not like that anymore. A lot of people just join to get those college benefits and to get that education, which is great. But at the same time, for me and my sacrifice, I just want to be looked at now as somebody that, I did my time in the military, and that's great. But when it comes down to it, we've learned to grow our medicine, and that's what's been important for us. Is cannabis for everybody? It may not be for everybody. It may not be for you, but at least give something a try. We don't have to be on opioids. We don't have to. That's what they want us to believe, that we need to be on that stuff, man. And so for me, if you are a person that would love to, that would like to learn how to grow, not just cannabis, fruits, vegetables, and herbs. If you can help me out in any way, if I can help you out anyway, I definitely would love to help you out. You can follow me on Instagram. I go by BabyDad Grows on Instagram. Also, I go by BabyDad_Grows on YouTube. We are just bringing over a lot of videos and pictures from our Instagram. A lot of that stuff that everybody will see will be mostly Boneyard Seed NorCal, and most of it will be Tony's gear, right? And so we always want to show love to those people that shown love to us and that has helped us along the way. Growing Old, THC Garage, yourself, the Chad Westports, the Cheddar Bobs. These are some of the people that I've learned from and that I continue to learn from. If I can be of service and help out anybody, just please let me know. Reach out to me. We'd love to help out. We love to see other grows. We just started our own YouTube show on Fridays at 3:00 Pacific. I would love to have you as a guest. Mr. Somerville, your invite. That is your invite. My show is called Anchors and Buds, where we take a different look at products, right? When I say take a different look at products, we do go to some dispensaries and take a look at what they may have, and we also sample those and just let people know what works for this and what works for that. So that's important for us. And going forward, that's the type of stuff that we want to do. But we also know that there's a lot of people that's not on the same road that we're on, and that's fine too. That's but I definitely want to just keep everything respectful. I respect everybody, and I hope I get the same respect. I love to be on any kind of shows that anybody's having. If I could be of service and do that, I love to do that too. But thank you so much for allowing me to be on here. Today is my birthday. So yes, sir, we've had so much fun today. I enjoyed talking to your wife. Now I know who she is on these podcasts. Thank you so much for following, and thank you for everything that you've done for our community as well.
And thank you. And that's where one lit candle can light many without ever diminishing its own light. Never allow anybody to put your light out. It's just too special, and you need to keep lighting in it.
Gotcha.
Another one on Monday, we've got Luna Whitcomb, Luna All Day, coming on. She's going to be talking with Leighton Morrison on the Soil Matters. Another fantastic grower that's really helped the community out. So, guys, everybody's saying happy birthday, man. So, you got guys, if you can send them a birthday wish on Instagram, send them a birthday wish on Instagram. But everybody, you guys have a great day. We love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Baby Daddy Grows, thank you so much for being here. You really touched my heart with the way you're helping people, and especially the veterans. And we appreciate everything that you've done and they've done for humanity and for the people of this planet, not for any specific country or philosophy, but to keep children alive and to help the elderly. That's what the real focus really should be, is for helping humanity, because we're all the same bloody race. We're all primates. We're a lot of ape-like mother SOBs out there.
Yes, sir.
So, guys,
thank you
love
so
you.
much.
Peace out.